Today, Louis Feuillade is best known for his espionage serials such as Fantomas and Les Vampires, but to limit his reputation to these films is to underestimate the depth and breadth of his achievements. As a director, Feuillade was a master of many genres. Over the course of his 20-year career, Feuillade directed more than 600 films. Feuillade began working at the Gaumont Film Company in 1905, initially as a writer. He was recruited by Alice Guy, the pioneering filmmaker who had spearheaded Gaumont's artistic growth during the earliest years of cinema. Almost immediately, Feuillade began directing and proved himself both versatile and prolific. When Guy left Gaumont for the U.S. in 1907, she named Feuillade as her successor. For more than a decade, Feuillade served as the artistic director at the Gaumont Film Company. During this time, no single person had such a strong creative influence at Gaumont. As a result, Feuillade had a direct impact upon cinema's growth as an art form during the 1910s. It was his job to monitor trends and predict changes in the industry. On January 28, 1910, Feuillade wrote a memo to studio president Léon Gaumont. Quote, "It is with the large-scale historical film spanning all times and all countries that we will best be able to compete with the Americans in their own country." 4 months later, Feuillade issued a manifesto announcing a new breed of film, le film esthétique, or the aesthetic film. They would be, quote, historical reenactments, mythological fantasies, tragedies. The historical epic was nothing new. It had been innovated by the Italian film industry, but le film esthétique declared itself something more. Quote, "Whether it is allegorical, poetic, or symbolic, embracing the Christian faith, depicting a sacrifice to the gods of Olympus, or reveling in the beauties of nature, le film esthétique promises to be more visually dynamic than the theater." Feuillade and Gaumont followed through on their promise and delivered to the world a series of ambitious productions. Feuillade demonstrated a particular flair for comedy. Broad comedy that owed its origins more to the music hall stage than the devices of cinema. Among his most popular creations were the so-called bébé films. They starred Clément Méry, who was only 5 years old when the series began. A steady stream of bébé films, more than 70 of them, were produced during its 2-year lifespan. Feuillade was especially fond of exploring the film series. The Bébé series ended when Clément Méry left Gaumont in 1913. He was replaced by René Poyen, and a new long-running series was begun, Boudezin. The series lasted for more than 50 installments. So popular was the Boudezin character that he even shows up in Feuillade's thriller, Judex. In Bébé, Victim of a Miscarriage of Justice, Feuillade wove the filmmaking process into the fabric of the story. a shopkeeper accuses Bébé of thievery, not realizing he is performing for the camera. That same year, Feuillade applied a similar theme to A Village Scandal. Townspeople are shocked by the indecent display of a film crew. Apparently, they were shooting a film esthétique. A year later, Feuillade returned yet again to this idea of screen fantasy and a person's inability to distinguish it from reality. A man sees his wife on the arm of another man while watching an innocuous comedy. The Onésime films were another of Gaumant's long-running series. The husband's jealousy proves to be nearly fatal. These films represent a more serious side to Feuillade's work. They were conscious efforts to explore the changing social mores that were altering the face of France during the Belle Époque. Since Feuillade loved series, he created a name for this new
And we're tired of what your company is doing to our Tromaville.
We're tired of the groundwater pollution.
And your sludge.
Called Life as It Is. The Gaumont Company expects to mark a noteworthy date in the history of the cinematic arts. The scenes of Life as It Is are unlike anything filmmakers have thus far achieved. They represent for the first time an attempt to depict realism on the screen, just as it has recently been done in literature, theater, and art. They reject fantasy and present people and things as they are, and not as they should be. These films include The Vipers, which dramatized the nasty effects of gossip. The Defect stars Renée Carl as a reformed prostitute who devotes herself to philanthropy but cannot escape the scorn of the intolerant. One of the more unusual films in the Life as It Is series is The Dwarf, which stars popular music hall performer Delphin. A romantic tragedy about a celebrated playwright who is in love with a leading actress, an actress who cannot overcome the prejudice toward a person of his size. Feuillade it is. Yet Feuillade continued to make films in this vein throughout the 1910s, at the same time that he was directing children's comedies and serialized thrillers. If we think of Feuillade only in terms of the adventure films, we risk losing sight of such delicate, thoughtful dramas, films that were intended to raise the art of cinema to new heights. Or the childish antics of Bébé and Boutezan. Fortunately, Gaumont has strived to locate these lesser-known films, preserve and restore them, and keep them before the eyes of the world, so that Feuillade's wide-ranging contributions to the cinema will not soon be forgotten.